The pen trembles in my hand as I stare down at the paper napkin. The restaurant's logo, a simple olive branch mocking me with its promise of peace. There is no peace in what I'm about to do, only desperation wrapped in the thin veneer of courage. I write the numbers quickly before I can change my mind. 10 digits that feel like a lifeline thrown into dark water. Beneath them, I add 3 words that make my cheeks burn. You seem kind. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. It's pathetic, really. A 26-year-old woman leaving her phone number for a waiter because he smiled at her like she was a person instead of an inconvenience. Because in 3 months of living in this cold, unforgiving city, he's the only one who's looked at me with anything resembling warmth. The lunch rush at Marcello's is winding down, the clatter of dishes and murmur of conversation, creating a cocoon of ambient noise around me. I've been nursing the same cup of coffee for an hour, stretching out my welcome because my studio apartment, if you can call a room with a hot plate an apartment, feels like a tomb. My fingers fold the napkin carefully, precisely, as if the neatness of the creases might somehow make this less humiliating. Through the window, February rain streaks down the glass, turning Boston's streets into watercolor paintings of gray and brown. It matches my mood perfectly. More coffee, miss? I look up, and there he is. Daniel. At least, that's what his name tag says. Sandy hair that falls across his forehead, green eyes that crinkle at the corners when he smiles. And that smile, God, that smile that makes me feel like maybe I'm not completely invisible in this city that swallows people whole. No, thank you. I manage, my voice steadier than I feel. Just the check, please. He nods, pulling the slim folder from his apron, and that's when I do it. As he sets the check on the table, I slide the folded napkin across the worn wood surface, my heart hammering so hard I'm certain he can hear it. This is for you, I say quietly, meeting his eyes for just a second before looking away. His expression shifts surprise, maybe a flicker of interest, but before he can respond, a voice cuts through the moment like a knife through silk. I'll take that. The voice is deep, textured with an accent. I can't quite place Italian, maybe, but smoothed by years of American living. It carries authority the way some men carry weapons, naturally and without apology. My head snaps up, and I find myself staring at a man who makes the air feel thinner. He's standing beside our table, Daniel's and mine, tall enough that I have to tilt my head back to meet his gaze. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble, all sharp angles and strong lines. His suit is charcoal, perfectly tailored to broad shoulders, and even I, who knows nothing about men's fashion, can tell it costs more than I make in 6 months. But it's his eyes that trap me, dark, almost black, and utterly unreadable, as they hold mine with an intensity that makes my breath catch. He reaches past Daniel not roughly, but with such casual confidence that the waiter automatically steps back and plucks the napkin from the table. My napkin, with my number on it. Excuse me, I start, finding my voice somewhere beneath the shock. That's not for me. He unfolds it with deliberate slowness, his eyes never leaving my face as he reads what I've written. One dark eyebrow arches slightly. You seem kind, he reads aloud, and something that might be amusement touches his lips. Interesting choice of words. Heat floods my face, burning from my cheeks down my neck. That was private. It's not yours. It is now. It is now. He slips the napkin into the inner pocket of his suit jacket, the gesture so smooth and final it takes my breath away. Daniel shifts uncomfortably beside him, clearly uncertain whether to intervene. I notice how the young waiter's eyes dart between us, how his posture has changed from relaxed friendliness to something more guarded, more alert. Sir, Daniel begins carefully, his voice tight. I think the lady intended, you can go. The man doesn't even look at Daniel when he speaks, his gaze still locked on mine. It's not loud, not aggressive, but something in his tone makes it absolutely clear this isn't a suggestion. Daniel hesitates for only a second before retreating, and I watch him go with a sinking feeling in my stomach. The other servers I can see from my seat near the window are suddenly very busy with other tasks, their attention carefully directed anywhere but here. You had no right to do that, I say, trying to inject steel into my voice even as my hands shake slightly beneath the table. He pulls out the chair across from me, Daniel's chair, where he'd sat to, take my order 90 minutes ago, and settles into it with the ease of someone who has never been told no in his life. Rights are negotiable, he says, his accent more pronounced on certain words. Opportunities, however, are not. And you've just presented me with a very interesting opportunity. Up close, he's even more devastating. The kind of handsome that doesn't feel safe, that carries warning signs I'm too inexperienced to fully read. There's a small scar through his left eyebrow, barely visible, and another along his jaw. His cologne reaches me now, something dark and expensive. Cedar and bergamot, and something else I can't name. I don't know what you think this is, I say, trying to keep my voice steady. But I'm not interested in whatever game you're playing. Please give me back my napkin so I can leave. Leave? He leans back in the chair, somehow making the casual posture look elegant. You've been sitting here for over an hour, ordering nothing but coffee. Checked your phone 43 times, each time looking more disappointed. You've watched the rain like it might offer answers to questions you're afraid to ask. And then you wrote your phone number on a napkin for a boy who looks at every woman in this restaurant the same way he looked at you. The accuracy of his observations steals my breath. How long has he been watching me? My eyes dart around the restaurant, trying to locate where he was sitting, and that's when I notice table 9 in the corner booth with the prime view of the entire restaurant, including my table by the window. The booth that's been occupied by 3 men in expensive suits since before I arrived, their conversation low and serious, their presence somehow creating an invisible barrier that kept other patrons at a distance. You were watching me, I whisper, something cold sliding down my spine. I was observing, he corrects, as if there's a difference. There's an art to understanding people, and you, Sophia Chen, are an interesting study. My blood turns to ice. How do you know my name? He nods toward the textbook sitting on the table beside my barely touched sandwich, the one I've been pretending to read while actually working up the courage to leave the napkin. Your name is written on the inside cover, Sophia Chen, graduate student at Boston University, based on the library stamp. Struggling, based on the fact that you've been eating the cheapest item on the menu and making it last as long as possible. Each word lands like a stone in still water, creating ripples of panic. This isn't normal. This isn't some charming stranger flirting with me. This is something else, something darker. I need to go, I say, reaching for my purse with trembling fingers. His hand covers mine on the table, not roughly, but firmly enough to stop me. His skin is warm, and I can feel the calluses on his palms, strange for a man in such an expensive suit. I haven't introduced myself, he says, his voice dropping lower. I'm Dante Vitali, and I think you and I need to have a conversation about why you're really in Boston, who you're running from, and why you thought leaving your phone number for a waiter might somehow save you from whatever's hunting you. The world tilts sideways. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you? His thumb strokes across my knuckles, the gesture almost gentle despite the steel beneath it. A woman doesn't spend 90 minutes in a restaurant she clearly can't afford, watching the door like she expects demons to walk through it, unless she's hiding from something, or someone. Tears burn behind my eyes, but I refuse to let them fall. He's right, and somehow that makes it worse. I am hiding. I am running. And I did think that maybe, just maybe, if I could connect with someone, anyone, I might feel less alone, less terrified, less convinced that the footsteps I hear behind me in the dark are real and getting closer. Let me go, I whisper. I will, he says, surprising me. But first you're going to listen to what I have to say, because whether you realize it or not, Sophia, you just asked for help. You wrote, "You seem kind on that napkin because you're desperate for someone to see you, to notice that you're drowning, to throw you something to hold on to." I was just being friendly, I protest weakly. You were being desperate, he corrects, not unkindly. And desperation makes people visible to predators. Lucky for you, I saw you first. Lucky? A bitter laugh escapes me. You stole my phone number and cornered me in a restaurant. That doesn't feel lucky. Something flickers in his dark eyes, acknowledgement. Maybe even respect. Fair point. Let me rephrase. Whether or not it's lucky depends entirely on what happens in the next 5 minutes. He releases my hand and pulls out his phone, tapping the screen a few times before turning it to face me. On the display is a photograph, slightly grainy, clearly taken from a security camera. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. It shows a man standing outside my apartment building, his face partially obscured by a baseball cap, but his posture unmistakably focused on my building's entrance. My heart stops. When was this taken? This morning, around 7. Dante swipes to another photo, this one showing the same man sitting in a dark sedan across the street from Marcello's. And this was taken about 20 minutes ago. The restaurant suddenly feels too small, too exposed. My gaze shoots to the window, scanning the street outside, the parked cars, the people hurrying through the rain. Who is he? I manage to ask, though part of me already knows. Part of me has known for weeks that I'm being followed, watched, hunted. That's what I was hoping you could tell me, Dante says, pocketing his phone. But based on the way your face just went white, I'm guessing you have some idea. I do. God help me. I do. The man in the photos could be one of Marcus's people. Marcus, my stepfather, the man I fled from 6 months ago, with nothing but a backpack, and the certainty that if I stayed in San Francisco one more day, I'd disappear like my mother did 3 years ago. I can't talk about this here, I whisper, my eyes still darting to the windows, the door, calculating exits I never noticed before. Agreed. Dante stands, and I realize he's even taller than I thought, at least 6'2", with the kind of presence that seems to alter the space around him. My car is outside. We're going somewhere private where we can discuss this properly. I'm not getting in a car with a stranger, I say, even as I stand too, my body responding to the urgency in his tone before my mind can catch up. I'm not a stranger anymore, Sophia. I'm Dante Vitale, and as of 5 minutes ago, I became very invested in keeping you alive. He places his hand at the small of my back, the touch proprietary and strangely comforting at once. Now move. That man outside just got out of his car. I don't question. The primal part of my brain that's kept me alive for 6 months takes over, and I let Dante guide me through the restaurant, past the kitchen where Daniel and the other servers carefully avoid looking at us, and out through a back exit I didn't know existed. The alley is narrow and damp, smelling of rain and garbage, and the distinct urban perfume of a city that never quite washes clean. A black Mercedes idles near the far end, and Dante propels me toward it with efficient urgency. The back door opens before we reach it, held by a man the size of a small building, his expression flat and professional. I barely have time to register his presence before I'm being ushered into leather seats that smell like luxury and danger in equal measure. Dante slides in beside me, and the door closes with a solid thunk that sounds like a vault ceiling. The car moves immediately, pulling out of the alley with practiced ease. Where are you taking me? I ask, my voice embarrassingly small. Somewhere safe. Dante pulls off his suit jacket, revealing a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his forearms. Even in crisis, he looks like he stepped out of a magazine. Somewhere your shadow can't follow without announcing himself. You don't understand, I say, panic rising in my throat like bile. You don't know who these people are, what they're capable of, don't I? He turns those dark eyes on me, and I see something in them that makes me go quiet. Something that says he understands danger intimately. That he's not just familiar with it, but perhaps on first-name terms. Sophia, I know exactly what kind of people send surveillance on vulnerable women. The question is, why you? The car glides through Boston's streets, the rain on the windows creating a barrier between us and the outside world. I watch the city slide past the university where I'm supposed to be studying art history, the coffee shop where I sometimes treat myself to, a latte when I have $3 to spare, the park where I sit on clear days and pretend I'm just another normal graduate student instead of a woman whose past is hunting her. My mother died 3 years ago. I hear myself say, the words coming from somewhere deep and painful. The police said it was an accident. She fell down the stairs in our home in San Francisco. But my mother was the most graceful woman I ever knew. She'd been a dancer before she married my stepfather. She didn't fall downstairs. Dante says nothing, just watches me with an intensity that should make me uncomfortable but somehow doesn't. It feels like he's actually listening, actually seeing me, in a way no one has since I left California. Marcus, my stepfather, he changed after she died. Or maybe he was always like that and she'd hidden it from me. He became controlling, paranoid. He said I couldn't leave the house without security. He had cameras installed everywhere. He monitored my phone, my computer, my bank accounts. My voice cracked slightly. When I tried to move into the dorms at Stanford, he showed up with lawyers and had me declared financially dependent, forced me to stay at home. So you ran, Dante says quietly. I ran, I confirm, staring at my hands in my lap. I got on a bus to Los Angeles, then another to Denver, then Chicago, and finally here. I used cash. I changed my appearance. I got a fake ID to enroll at BU under my mother's maiden name instead of his surname. I thought I'd been careful enough. But he found you anyway. Someone found me, I whisper. I've felt it for weeks. The sense of being watched. Footsteps behind me that stop when I stop. And then 3 days ago, I found a note under my apartment door. It said, "Your mother fell too." That's when I knew it wasn't paranoia. The car stops, and I realize we've entered an underground parking garage, all concrete pillars and fluorescent lighting. Dante's jaw tightens as he processes what I've told. "Tim, did you keep the note?" I nod, pulling it from my jacket pocket where it's been burning a hole for 72 hours. The paper is ordinary. The message printed in plain typeface. Nothing special about it except that it destroyed what little peace I'd managed to find in this city. Dante takes it, his fingers brushing mine, and examines it with the focus of someone used to evaluating evidence. "This is a threat and a confession," he says finally. "Whoever wrote this is telling you they killed your mother and you're next." Hearing it said aloud makes it real in a way it hadn't been before. My throat constricts with unshed tears. "Why did you leave the napkin for the waiter?" Dante asks, and the question seems like a non sequitur until he continues. "What did you think he could do for you?" "Nothing. I admit. I was so tired of being alone with this, of being scared every second, of not having a single person in this entire city who even knows my real name. I thought if I could just connect with someone, anyone, maybe I'd feel less like I'm disappearing." Understanding flashes across his face, and something else too, something that looks almost like recognition, as if he knows exactly what I'm describing. "You're not disappearing, Sophia," he says, his voice carrying a conviction that makes me want to believe him. "But you are in danger, serious danger, from people who clearly have resources and patience." "I know," I whisper. "I should have kept running. I should have never stopped moving." "Running stops today," Dante says firmly. The car door opens, held by the mountain of a man from before, and Dante gestures for me to exit. "As of this moment, you're under my protection. That means different rules, different strategies, and a very different outcome than the one your stepfather has planned." I step out into the garage, my legs unsteady. "Why would you help me? You don't even know me." Dante emerges behind me, his presence somehow reassuring even as every logical part of my brain screams that I've just traded one danger for another. "I know enough," he says. "I know you're intelligent, smart enough to run and survive for 6 months on your own. I know you're resourceful. You've managed to hide from someone with enough money to hire professional surveillance. And I know you're desperate enough to take risks, which makes you either very brave or very foolish. Which one do you think I am?" His lips curve into something that's not quite a smile. "I think you're both, which makes you interesting. And I have a particular weakness for interesting women who find themselves in impossible situations." We're walking now, through the garage toward an elevator that opens as we approach it, as if it had been waiting for us. Everything about this feels orchestrated, planned, like Dante Vitale is a man used to having the world arrange itself for his convenience. "Where are we?" I ask as we enter the elevator. The interior is all polished brass and mirrors, reflecting infinite versions of us standing side by side, him tall and powerful in his expensive clothes. Me, small and disheveled in my second-hand jacket and jeans. "My building," he answers simply, pressing the button for the penthouse. One of them, anyway. The elevator rises swiftly, my ears popping slightly with the altitude. "One of them? I have several properties throughout Boston," he explains, watching the numbers climb. "This one has the best security and the most privacy. You'll stay here until we've resolved your situation." "Stay here?" My voice pitches higher. "I can't just move into your penthouse. I don't even know you. For all I know, you're worse than Marcus." Dante turns to face me fully, and in the confined space of the elevator, his presence is overwhelming. He reaches out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and tilts my chin up with 2 fingers so I have to meet his eyes. "Let me be very clear about something. Sophia," he says, his voice low and intense. "I am not a good man. I am not a hero. I run organizations that operate in shadows your innocent mind can't even imagine. But I am a man who honors his commitments, who protects what's mine, and who has very specific rules about women and children they're off limits. Always." His thumb brushes across my lower lip, the touch sending an electric current straight through me. "Marcus crossed that line when he threatened you," Dante continues. "That makes him my problem now. And I promise you, Sophia, you're much safer with the devil you just met than the one you've been running from." The elevator doors open onto a space that takes my breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows reveal Boston stretching out beneath us, the city lights beginning to sparkle as dusk settles in. The penthouse is all clean lines and expensive furniture, modern art on the walls, and the kind of understated luxury that screams wealth without needing to shout. But what catches my attention most is the man standing by the windows, his back to us, phone to his ear. He's speaking rapid Italian, his tone clipped and authoritative. As we enter, he turns, and I see he's younger than Dante, maybe late 20s, with similar dark hair and the same sharp features that suggest they're related. The situation at the harbor is contained, the younger man says in accented English, ending his call. His eyes land on me with undisguised curiosity. And who is this? This is Sophia, Dante says, his hand still resting at the small of my back. Sophia, my brother Luca. He handles security for our organization. Organization. The word hangs in the air like a warning I'm only now beginning to understand. Piacere, Luca says, his smile charming but his eyes assessing. Dante said he was bringing home a stray. I didn't expect her to be so. He trails off, his gaze raking over me in a way that makes me acutely aware of my rumpled appearance. Careful, Dante warns, his voice dropping to something dangerous. She's under my protection. That makes her family. The shift in Luca's expression is immediate, the charm replaced by respect and something like wariness. Of course, scusa. I don't understand what just happened. But I understand enough to know that Dante claiming me as family means something in their world. Something significant. I've had a room prepared, a woman's voice says, and I turn to see an elegant older woman emerging from a hallway. She's maybe 60, with silver hair pulled into a sleek bun, and the kind of understated grace that comes from decades of knowing exactly who she is. Miss Chen will want to freshen up before dinner. Thank you, Maria, Dante says warmly, the first genuine affection I've heard in his voice. Sophia, Maria has been with our family for 30 years. She knows more about running this household than I do. Anything you need, ask her. Maria studies me with kind but shrewd eyes. Come, dear, let's get you settled. I glance at Dante, suddenly unwilling to leave his presence despite having just met him, despite the alarm bells still ringing in the back of my mind. Go, he says gently. Rest. We'll talk more over dinner, and I'll explain exactly what happens next. I follow Maria down a hallway lined with art. I'm fairly certain belongs in museums, my mind reeling with everything that's happened in the last hour. An hour ago, I was a lonely graduate student, leaving her number for a kind waiter. Now I'm in a penthouse with what I'm beginning to suspect is a Mafia boss, and his brother, being hunted by my stepfather who might have murdered my mother. The room Maria leads me to is larger than my entire studio apartment. A king bed with soft gray linens dominates one wall, facing those enormous windows with their view of the city. An ensuite bathroom visible through an open door gleams with marble and brass fixtures. There are clothes in the closet, Maria says, gesturing to double doors. Mr. Vitali had his assistant acquire some things in your size. If anything doesn't fit or suit your taste, we can arrange for more. I blink at her. How did he know my size? Mr. Vitali is very observant, she says diplomatically. Dinner is at 7. That gives you 2 hours to rest and prepare. Do you have any questions? About 1,000, but I settle on. Is he really who I think he is? Maria's expression softens with what might be affection or might be resignation. Dante Vitali is many things to many people, but if he's told you you're under his protection, then you are the safest person in Boston right now. Whatever you're running from, child, it can't touch you here. She leaves me alone in the beautiful room with its view of a city that suddenly feels less threatening, and I sink onto the edge of the bed, my whole body starting to shake as the adrenaline of the last hour drains away. I came to Marcello's today ready to give up, ready to accept that I would always be alone and hunted, that there was no hope of anything better. I left a napkin with my number on it as a desperate grasp at human connection, at feeling like I mattered to someone, anyone. Instead, a man who radiates danger like cologne took that napkin and, with it, took control of my entire life. I should be terrified. Part of me is, but another part, the part that's been running and hiding and slowly dying inside for 6 months, feels something I haven't felt since the night I left San Francisco. Hope. I stand under the rainfall shower for longer than I should, letting water hot enough to turn my skin pink, wash away the grime of fear I've been wearing for months. The bathroom is a study in luxury heated marble floors, a separate soaking tub, toiletries that probably cost more than my monthly food budget. Everything smells like lavender and something else. something expensive and European that I can't identify. When I finally emerge wrapped in a towel thick enough to be a blanket, I find the closet Maria mentioned. Inside are clothes still bearing tags from boutiques I've only ever walked past, never dared to enter. Soft cashmere sweaters in jewel tones, dark jeans that look like they might actually fit, silk blouses, and at the back, dresses that take my breath away. I choose jeans dark, perfectly fitted when I pull them on, and a sweater in deep emerald that makes my dark hair look less disheveled and more intentional. There are even undergarments in my size, which should creep me out but instead just makes me wonder exactly how observant Dante Vitali really is. The mirror shows me a version of myself I barely recognize. For 6 months, I've been invisible by choice baggy clothes, no makeup, hair always pulled back, head always down. The woman looking back at me now has color in her cheeks, clarity in her dark eyes, and something that might be the beginnings of hope in her expression. A knock at the door makes me jump. "Miss Chen?" Maria's voice, gentle and patient. "Dinner is ready when you are." I take a breath, squaring my shoulders. Whatever comes next, I'm not the same terrified girl who left that napkin 2 hours ago. I'm not sure who I am now, but I'm ready to find out. The dining room continues the penthouse's theme of understated luxury. A table that could seat 12 is set for 4. The place settings arranged at one end to create intimacy rather than distance. Floor-to-ceiling windows show Boston's night skyline, the city transformed into something beautiful and mysterious by darkness and distance. Dante stands by those windows, a glass of red wine in his hand, his profile sharp against the city lights. He's changed too. Gone is the suit jacket, leaving him in that crisp white shirt with the sleeves still rolled to reveal surprisingly muscular forearms. There's a casualness to his posture now, a relaxation that makes him somehow more dangerous, not less. He turns as I enter, and something flickers in his dark eyes as they travel over me. Not leering, not objectifying, but appreciative in a way that makes warmth pool low in my stomach. "The green suits you," he says simply. "It brings out the gold in your eyes." I hadn't even realized my eyes had gold in them. "Thank you for the clothes. You didn't have to." "I did," he interrupts smoothly, moving toward the table and pulling out a chair for me. "You arrived with nothing. That's unacceptable for someone under my protection." There's that word again. Protection. It keeps coming up, weighted with meanings I don't fully understand. I sit, and he takes the seat adjacent to mine, close enough that I can smell that cedar and bergamot cologne again, can see the faint shadow of stubble along his jaw. "Luca will join us shortly," Dante says, pouring me a glass of wine without asking if I want it. "He's been making some calls about your stepfather." My stomach tightens. What kind of calls? The kind that establish exactly who Marcus Chen is, what resources he has access to, and who he hired to find you. Dante's tone is matter of fact, as if he's discussing the weather rather than potentially dangerous criminal investigation. Information is power, Sophia. The more we know about our enemy, the better we can protect against him. Our enemy, I repeat softly. He's not your enemy. He's mine. You barely know me. Dante sets down his wine glass, giving me his full attention. "Let me tell you what I know about you, Sophia. You're 26 years old, born in San Francisco to Margaret Chen, a second-generation Chinese-American who married a white real estate developer named Marcus Peterson when you were 8. Your biological father died when you were 4 car accident, if the records are accurate." I go still, my heart starting to pound. "You investigated me." "Of course I did." No apology in his voice. "You're sitting at my table, under my roof. I don't take that lightly. I know you graduated top of your class, from Stanford with a degree in art history. I know you were accepted into their graduate program but never enrolled. I know your mother fell down the stairs of your Presidio Heights home 3 years ago, that the police investigation found no evidence of foul play, and that you inherited nothing because everything was in Marcus's name. Each fact lands like a small blow, stripping away the anonymity I've been hiding behind. You learned all that in 2 hours? I learned that in 20 minutes, Dante corrects. The other 100 minutes were spent learning things that aren't in public records, like the fact that Marcus Peterson isn't just a real estate developer. He's a facilitator. He helps people with questionable money buy legitimate property. He launders millions through his developments, taking a percentage off the top. I stare at him, the wine glass frozen halfway to my lips. "How do you know that?" "Because men like Marcus and I operate in overlapping circles," Dante says simply. "He provides a service to people in my world, which means I have leverage he doesn't know I have." Your world. I set down the wine, my hands trembling slightly. You're with the Mafia. That's what this is, isn't it? The organization Luca mentioned. Dante doesn't flinch from the accusation. The Vitali family has been in Boston for 4 generations. We have legitimate businesses, restaurants, construction companies, import-export operations. We also have less legitimate ones. I won't insult your intelligence by pretending otherwise. So why help me? The question bursts out, fueled by confusion and fear, and something else I can't name. If Marcus is useful to your world, why risk angering him by protecting me? Something dark flashes across Dante's face. Because men like Marcus Peterson hide behind respectability while doing things that violate every code we live by. He married your mother for her family's legitimate business connections. He killed her when she discovered his money laundering. And now he's hunting you because you're a loose end. A witness who might eventually remember something, say something, become a problem. You can't know he killed her, I whisper, but the conviction in my voice is crumbling. I had someone pull the coroner's report, Dante says quietly. Your mother had bruising on her upper arms consistent with being grabbed and shoved. The investigating officer noted it but was told to mark it as consistent with the fall. Marcus made one phone call, and the investigation ended. Tears burn hot behind my eyes. I've suspected for 3 years, known in my heart, but hearing it confirmed makes it real in a way that steals my breath. He killed her, I say, my voice breaking. He killed my mother and got away with it. Not for long. Dante's hand covers mine on the table, his touch warm and surprisingly gentle. We're going to make sure he pays for what he did, Sophia. But first, we need to keep you alive long enough to see that justice done. The door opens, and Luca enters with another man I haven't seen before. This one is older, maybe late 40s, with gray threading through dark hair, and the kind of weathered face that's seen things, done things. This is Marco, Dante introduces, his hand still covering mine. My head of security. Marco, Sophia Chen. Marco nods respectfully, but his expression is grave. We have a problem, Dante. The surveillance on Miss Chen wasn't just Marcus's people. We've identified at least 3 different entities watching her apartment and the university. My blood runs cold. 3? What do you mean 3? Marcus hired a private investigation firm out of San Francisco, Marco explains, pulling out a tablet and setting it on the table. The screen shows surveillance photos, different angles of my building, the campus, even Marcello's restaurant. But there's also a man named Vincent Russo who's been asking questions about you in certain circles. Dante's jaw tightens. Russo. What's his interest? Unknown, Marco admits. But he's connected to the Chicago outfit. And then there's this. He swipes to another photo, this one showing a woman in her 30s, blonde, professional looking, sitting in a car outside my apartment. Who is she? I ask, leaning forward despite the fear coiling in my stomach. FBI, Dante says flatly, his eyes narrowing. That's Special Agent Sarah Hendricks. She works organized crime cases. The room goes quiet except for the soft clink of Maria setting down plates of food I barely register. My mind is reeling, trying to process what I'm hearing. Why would the FBI be watching me? I ask, looking between the 3 men. I haven't done anything illegal. No, Dante agrees, but Marcus has. And if they've connected you to him, they might think you can provide information about his operations. Which means, Luca adds, dropping into the chair across from me, you're not just running from your stepfather anymore, Sophia. You're caught between multiple dangerous parties who all want something from you. I push back from the table, suddenly unable to breathe. The room feels too small, too close, despite its spacious elegance. This is insane. I'm nobody. I'm just a grad student trying to survive. You stopped being nobody the moment you ran, Dante says, standing and moving to block my path to the window. Marcus made you important by hunting you. The FBI made you important by investigating him. And now, by coming under my protection, you've become important in an entirely different way. What way? I demand, fear and frustration making my voice sharp. His dark eyes hold mine, intense and unwavering. You're under the protection of the Vitali family. In our world, that's a statement. It says I'm willing to go to war for you. It says you're valuable enough that I'll risk my resources, my relationships, my reputation to keep you safe. But why? The question comes out as almost a sob. Why would you do that for someone you just met? Dante steps closer, close enough that I have to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. His hand comes up to cut my cheek, his thumb brushing away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. Because when I saw you sitting in that restaurant, watching that waiter with hope in your eyes, writing your number on that napkin like it might be a lifeline, I recognized something, he says softly. I saw a woman who's been running so long she's forgotten what it feels like to stand still. Who's been invisible so long she's forgotten what it feels like to be seen. And I thought, here's someone worth saving. His words crack something open inside me, releasing emotions I've been holding back for months. I don't know how to do this, I whisper. I don't know how to trust you or accept help or believe that this isn't just another trap. Then don't trust me yet, Dante says simply. Just stay. Let me prove that my protection means something. Let me show you that not every powerful man is like Marcus Peterson. What if I can't give you anything in return? I ask, needing him to understand. What if I'm just a burden, a liability? Something that might be amusement flickers across his face. Sophia, you've already given me something valuable. What? A reason to take down Marcus Peterson that my conscience can live with. His hand drops from my face, but the intensity in his eyes doesn't waver. I've been looking for an excuse to remove him from the equation for years. He's sloppy, greedy, and dangerous to the stability of operations in Northern California. You've just given me the perfect justification. The manipulation in his words should anger me, but instead, I feel something else. Relief, maybe, that he's being honest about his motives rather than pretending to be a white knight. So I'm useful, I say flatly. You're useful, he confirms. But you're also under my protection for reasons that have nothing to do with strategy or revenge. Sit down, Sophia. Eat, and let me explain exactly how this is going to work. I return to my seat, suddenly starving despite the emotional whiplash of the last few hours. The food Maria has prepared is Italian perfectly al dente pasta, with a sauce that tastes like summer, fresh bread still warm from the oven, a salad with vegetables I can actually identify as vegetables rather than the wilted things I've been buying from discount markets. Starting tomorrow, Dante says as we eat, his tone shifting to business, you'll have a security detail. 2 men, rotating shifts, who will accompany you anywhere you need to go. I can't go to class with bodyguards, I protest. That's insane. You can and you will, he says firmly. They'll be discreet, but they'll be present. You'll also move your enrollment from BU to a private institution, where we can better control access and security. I can't afford private tuition, I start, but he waves this away. The Vitali Foundation provides scholarships to promising graduate students. You'll be awarded one. Full tuition, plus a stipend for living expenses. I stare at him. The Vitali Foundation? One of our legitimate operations, Luca interjects, grinning. We fund arts education, community programs, that sort of thing. Very respectable. The tax benefits are excellent. You'll also need a new phone, Marco adds, sliding a sleek device across the table. This one is encrypted and routed through our servers. If Marcus or anyone else tries to track you, they'll hit walls they can't penetrate. I look at the phone, then at the 3 men watching me with varying expressions, Dante intense and possessive, Luca amused and curious, Marco professional and assessing. This is really happening, I say quietly. You're really doing all this. This is just the beginning, Dante says. By this time tomorrow, Marcus will know you're under Vitali protection. We'll make sure of it, and then we wait to see how he responds. What if he responds with violence? The fear that's been my constant companion for months surges back. What if he sends people to... Let him try, Dante interrupts, his voice dropping to something cold and dangerous. The Vitale family has been in Boston for 4 generations because we're very good at defending what's ours. If Marcus wants to start a war over you, he'll discover very quickly that he's outmatched. People could get hurt, I insist. Your people. Because of me. My people know the risks of this life, Dante says. They chose it. You didn't choose to be hunted by a murderer, Sophia. There's a difference. Maria returns with dessert tiramisu that looks like art on delicate china plates. As she serves us, I catch her giving Dante a look I can't quite interpret. Approval, maybe. Or concern. There's one more thing, Dante says once Maria has left us. The FBI. I groan, having momentarily forgotten that particular complication. What? About them? Agent Hendricks is investigating Marcus's money laundering operation, Marco explains. She's been building a case for 18 months, but she needs something concrete witness testimony, documentation, something that will make charges stick. You think she wants to use me as a witness, I say, understanding dawning. I know she does, Dante corrects. She approached one of my businesses last week, asking questions about Marcus's real estate deals. She's getting desperate, which makes her dangerous. Dangerous how? I ask, confused. I thought the FBI were the good guys. Luca laughs, the sound sharp. The FBI are zealots in expensive suits, little dove. They don't care who gets hurt in pursuit of their case. They'd happily put you in a safe house, parade you in front of a grand jury, and then leave you to deal with the consequences when Marcus's friends come calling. As opposed to you, who are criminals in expensive suits. I counter, surprising myself with the edge in my voice. Dante's lips curve into a genuine smile, and it transforms his face from intimidating to devastatingly handsome. Exactly. At least we're honest about what we are. Despite everything, the danger, the confusion, the complete upending of my life, I find myself smiling back. There's something refreshing about his brutal honesty, his refusal to pretend he's something he's not. So what do I do if the FBI approaches me? I ask. You tell them you're represented by counsel and refer them to our lawyers, Dante says. You say nothing else. Understand? I nod, filing this away with all the other surreal information I've absorbed today. The rest of dinner passes with lighter conversation, Luca telling stories about growing up in Boston that make me laugh despite myself. Marco explaining the security measures being implemented around my new life with the detached professionalism of someone who's done this many times before. Through it all, I'm hyper-aware of Dante, beside me. The way his leg occasionally brushes against mine under the table. The way his eyes track my every movement with an intensity that should alarm me but instead sends heat through my veins. The way his hand finds excuses to touch me, guiding my attention to something across the room, refilling my wine glass, brushing a strand of hair from my face. It's possessive and probably problematic, and I should hate it, but I don't. For 6 months, I've been invisible, untouched, alone. His attention feels like coming in from the cold. By the time dinner ends, exhaustion is crashing over me in waves. It's only 9 o'clock, but the adrenaline that's kept me running for months is finally ebbing, leaving me hollow and tired. You should rest, Dante says, noticing me stifle a yawn. Tomorrow will be a long day. What happens tomorrow? I ask as he walks me back to my room, his hand at the small of my back becoming familiar. Tomorrow, we make our first move against Marcus, he says. We let him know you're not alone anymore, that if he wants to hurt you, he'll have to go through me first. We stop outside my door, and I turn to face him. Up close, in the soft lighting of the hallway, he's even more beautiful and more dangerous than I'd realized. There's intelligence in those dark eyes, and calculation, but also something else, something that looks almost like genuine care. Why are you really doing this? I ask quietly. The truth, not the strategic reasoning. He's silent for a long moment, studying my face as if memorizing it. When he speaks, his voice is low and honest in a way that steals my breath. Because I've spent my entire life in a world where people are transactions, where loyalty is bought and sold, where love is a weakness to be exploited, he says. And then I saw you in that restaurant, brave enough to reach out for connection despite everything you've been through, and I thought, here's someone real. Someone who hasn't been corrupted by our world yet. Someone worth protecting, not because of what she can give me, but because she deserves to be protected. My throat tightens with emotion. I'm not as innocent as you think. I've done things I'm not proud of to survive. We all have, Dante says softly. His hand comes up to cup my face, his touch gentle despite the calluses on his palm. The difference is whether we become the monsters our circumstances create, or whether we fight to remain human despite them. You, Sophia, are still fighting. That's why you're worth saving. Before I can respond, before I can process the rush of emotions his words evoke, he leans down and presses a kiss to my forehead. It's chaste, almost brotherly, but the tenderness in the gesture makes tears prick behind my eyes. Sleep, he murmurs against my skin. You're safe here. I promise. He steps back, creating distance, and I slip into my room before I can do something foolish, like pull him back, like ask him to stay, like admit that his presence is the first thing that's made me feel safe in 3 years. The room is exactly as I left it, but someone has turned down the bed and left a glass of water on the nightstand. Through the windows, Boston glitters beneath me, and somewhere out there, Marcus is looking for me, the FBI is building their case, and forces I don't understand are converging. But here, in this moment, in this room, I'm safe. I change into the silk pajamas I find laid out on the bed, more gifts from my mysterious protector, and slide between sheets that feel like clouds. As I drift toward sleep, I think about the napkin I left for Daniel the waiter just 7 hours ago. I'd written, "You seem kind," because I was desperately lonely, and he'd smiled at me like I mattered. Instead, my plea was answered by a man who is anything but kind, who deals in violence and power and control. A man who saw my desperation and decided to claim it, to claim me, for reasons I'm only beginning to understand. I'd be terrified. Part of me is. But as sleep finally claims me, safe and warm and protected for the first time in months, what I feel most is gratitude. And beneath that, dangerous and thrilling and impossible to ignore, the first stirrings of something that might become trust, or might become something far more dangerous. The sound of voices wakes me. I lie still in the darkness, heart pounding, before remembering where I am. Dante's penthouse. Safe. The voices are coming from somewhere beyond my door, low and urgent, speaking in rapid Italian. I catch only fragments, but I recognize Dante's voice, tense with an anger I didn't hear at dinner. Curiosity overcomes caution. I slip out of bed and move to the door, opening it just enough to hear more clearly. Can't be serious. That's Luca, his voice sharp. She's a liability, Dante. You've known her for 6 hours. She's under my protection. Dante's voice is cold, final. That's not negotiable. Your protection? Sure. A voice I don't recognize chimes in. But bringing her into the organization? Making her family? That requires a vote from the council. You know that. I know that tradition is flexible when circumstances require it, Dante responds. And I'm telling you all now. Sophia Chen stays. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me directly. The threat in his voice is unmistakable. And there's a long silence before someone, maybe Marco, speaks carefully. We're not questioning your authority, Dante. We're questioning your judgment. This woman appeared in your life hours ago. You know nothing about her real loyalties, her motivations. I know enough. You know what you want to know, Luca argues. She's beautiful. She's vulnerable. She's exactly the kind of damsel in distress you've always been susceptible to. Remember Elena? Remember how that ended? The mention of another woman's name makes my stomach clench with an emotion I frange. Don't want to examine too closely. Sophia is nothing like Elena, Dante says, his voice dropping to something dangerous. And you will not speak of them in the same breath again. Fine. Luca sounds frustrated but resigned. But if this blows up in your face, if she turns out to be working with the FBI or Marcus or anyone else, don't say I didn't warn you. Warning noted and dismissed. Now, what about the surveillance teams? The conversation shifts to logistics, and I carefully close my door, my mind racing. They don't trust me. Of course they don't. I'm a stranger, an outsider, a potential threat to their organization. And who is Elena? I climb back into bed, but sleep doesn't return. Instead, I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to process everything I've heard. Dante is protecting me against the advice of his own people. He's risking his reputation, his relationships, possibly even his position of power, for a woman he just met. Why? His words from earlier echo in my mind. Here's someone real. Someone who hasn't been corrupted by our world yet. Someone worth protecting. But what happens when he realizes I'm not the innocent victim he seems to think I am? What happens when he discovers the things I did to survive those 6 months on the run? The lies I told, the people I used, the lines I crossed? Will his protection still hold then? The questions chase each other through my mind until exhaustion finally drags me back under. My last conscious thought is of Dante's hand on my face, his voice low and honest. You deserve to be protected. I hope he still believes that when he learns the truth. Morning comes with weak winter sunlight filtering through the windows and the smell of fresh coffee. I shower and dress in more of the clothes that appeared in my closet. Dark jeans, a soft cream sweater, leather boots that fit perfectly. Everything designed to make me look put together, protected, claimed. When I emerge, I find Dante already in the dining room, impeccably dressed in another expensive suit, his attention focused on a tablet in his hand. He looks up as I enter, and something softens in his expression. Good morning, he says, setting aside the tablet. Did you sleep well? I consider lying but decide against it. I heard you arguing with Luca last night. His jaw tightens slightly. You have good ears. Not that good. You were being loud. I sit down across from him, accepting the coffee Maria materializes with. They don't trust me. They don't know you, Dante corrects. There's a difference. Is there? I wrap my hands around the warm mug. They're right to be suspicious. You don't know anything real about me. I could be working with Marcus, or the FBI, or anyone. Are you? He asks the question casually, as if discussing the weather. No, I say firmly. But how would you know if I was lying? A slight smile touches his lips. I wouldn't. Not with certainty. That's why it's called trust, Sophia. It requires a leap of faith. That seems foolish for someone in your position. Perhaps. He takes a sip of his espresso. Or perhaps I'm a better judge of character than my brother gives me credit for. I study him across the table, this enigmatic man who's turned my life upside down in less than 24 hours. Who's Elena? The temperature in the room drops about 10 degrees. Dante's expression goes carefully blank in a way that tells me this is a dangerous topic. Someone from my past, he says finally. Someone I trusted who betrayed that trust. Luca worries you'll do the same. Will I? I ask, needing to understand what he sees when he looks at me. No, Dante says with absolute conviction. Because Elena wanted power and position. She saw me as a means to an end. You, Sophia, just want to be safe. There's a difference in motivation that makes all the difference in outcome. Before I can respond, Marco enters, his expression grim. We have a situation. Dante's entire demeanor shifts from relaxed to alert in an instant. Show me. Marco pulls out his tablet, turning it to face us. On the screen is a video, clearly from a security camera, time-stamped from an hour ago. It shows my studio apartment, the door hanging open, the interior visible through the frame. It's been destroyed, completely and utterly ransacked. Furniture overturned, cushions slashed, books scattered everywhere. Everything I own, which wasn't much to begin with, demolished. Jesus, I breathe, my hands starting to shake. There's more, Marco says quietly, swiping to the next image. This one shows my door, and spray-painted across it in blood-red letters. Come home or everyone dies. The coffee turns to acid in my stomach. When did this happen? Between 4 and 5 this morning, Marco reports. Your landlord discovered it when other tenants complained about the noise. He's already filed a police report, which means the FBI knows about it too, Dante says, his voice tight with controlled anger. They've been watching the building. What does it mean? I ask, even though I think I already know. The message? Dante's dark eyes meet mine. It means Marcus is escalating faster than we anticipated. He's moved from watching you to threatening everyone around you. It's a classic intimidation tactic, make you so afraid of collateral damage that you turn yourself in to protect others. It's working, I whisper, staring at the destroyed remains of my life on the screen. God, what if he hurts someone because of me? What if... Stop. Dante's hand covers mine, firm and warm. This is exactly what he wants you to think. Don't give him that power. But he's right there, I gesture at the screen. He found my apartment. He knows where I live, where I go to school, where you used to live. Dante corrects. You don't live there anymore, Sophia. You live here, under my protection, where Marcus can't touch. For how long? The question bursts out, fueled by frustration and fear. I can't hide in your penthouse forever. Eventually I'll need to have a life, and when I do, he'll be waiting. Then we make sure he's not waiting, Dante says simply. We remove the threat permanently. The casual way he says it makes my blood run cold. You mean kill him? I mean neutralize him, Dante clarifies, though we both know it's semantics. Marcus Peterson has made himself a problem that requires permanent resolution. The question is whether you can accept that solution. I stare at him, at this handsome, dangerous man who's offering to commit murder on my behalf as casually as offering to buy me dinner. I don't know if I can. Then don't think about it yet, he says, standing and pulling me to my feet. First, we make sure you're truly safe. Marco, I want triple security on all our properties. And get word to Marcus through our usual channels, let him know Sophia is under Vitale. Protection as of yesterday. Make sure he understands what that means. Dante. Luca appears in the doorway, his phone in his hand. The FBI just called. Agent Hendricks wants to meet with Sophia. She says it's urgent. Of course she does. The universe has decided I'm some cosmic joke, caught between the mob, a murderous stepfather, and federal law enforcement. Tell her no, Dante says flatly. I can't do that, I interrupt, surprised by my own voice. If I refuse to talk to the FBI, it makes me look guilty of something. You are guilty of something. Dante points out. You're currently living with and accepting protection from a known organized crime figure. That's not going to look good to a federal agent. Then I'll explain that I'm a victim, that you're helping me because you're a good Samaritan, I say, the plan forming even as I speak. I'll tell her I barely know you, that you saw I was in trouble and offered temporary shelter. Nothing illegal about that, Dante studies. Me with new appreciation. You're thinking strategically. Good. But you're not meeting with her alone. She won't let you come with me, I point out. She'll want it to be just her and me. Then you'll wear a wire, Marco suggests. We'll be close enough to monitor the conversation and intervene if necessary. The idea of wearing a wire to meet with an FBI agent while living with the Mafia is so absurd it almost makes me laugh. Almost. Fine, I agree. When does she want to meet? Today. Noon. At a cafe near the BU campus. Luca looks uncomfortable. She specifically mentioned that location. She knows you're a student there. Then I'll meet her, I say, squaring my shoulders. And I'll find out exactly what she wants from me. Dante moves closer, his hand coming to rest at my jaw, tilting my face up to his. You don't have to do this, Sophia. I can make the FBI problem go away. By doing what? I challenge. Threatening a federal agent? That'll only make things worse. You're learning fast, he murmurs, something that might be pride in his eyes. All right, we do this your way. But Marco and 2 of my best men will be at that cafe, and you do exactly what they tell you. Understood? I nod, and he surprises me by leaning down and pressing his lips to my forehead again, that same gentle gesture from last night that makes my heart twist in my chest. Be careful, he says softly. Agent Hendricks is good at her job, which makes her dangerous. Don't underestimate her. 3 hours later, I'm sitting across from Special Agent Sarah Hendricks in a cafe that smells like burnt espresso and stress. She's exactly what I expected, mid-30s. Blonde hair pulled back in a no-nonsense ponytail, sharp blue eyes that miss nothing. Her suit is government-issued, her wedding ring is simple gold, and her expression is carefully neutral. Thank you for meeting with me, Miss Chen, she says, her voice surprisingly warm. I know this must be a difficult time for you. The wire Marco fitted under my sweater earlier feels like it's burning against my skin. I force myself to relax, to remember the story we rehearsed. I'm not sure why you wanted to see me, I say carefully. I haven't done anything wrong. I never said you did, Hendricks replies, signaling the barista for 2 coffees without asking if I want one. I'm investigating your stepfather, Marcus Peterson. I believe you may have information that could help my case. I haven't spoken to Marcus in 6 months, I say truthfully. I don't know anything about his business. But you lived with him for 18 years, Hendricks presses. You must have seen things, heard things. Did you know he was laundering money through his real estate developments? No, I lie. Because even though I suspected, I never actually knew. Marcus kept his business separate from our home life. Hendricks studies me for a long moment, and I can see her evaluating, calculating, deciding how to play this. Miss Chen, may I call you Sophia? I nod, not trusting my voice. Sophia, I know you're scared. I know someone destroyed your apartment this morning with a threatening message. I know you've been running for 6 months, hiding, trying to disappear. She leans forward, her voice dropping to something almost gentle. I can help you. I can put you in witness protection, give you a new identity, a new life where Marcus can never find you. But I need your cooperation. It's a good offer, a generous offer, everything a rational person should want. What kind of cooperation? I ask. Testimony, she says simply. Tell a grand jury what you know about Marcus's operations. Help me build a case against him. In exchange, you get safety, security, and the satisfaction of knowing he'll pay for his crimes, including murdering my mother. The unspoken promise hangs between us. And if I say no? I ask. Her expression hardens slightly. Then you're on your own, Sophia. And from what I understand, you've recently become involved with Dante Vitali. That's a very dangerous man to owe favors to. There it is, the threat beneath the friendly offer. She knows I'm staying with Dante. She probably knows a lot more than that. Mr. Vitali has been kind to me, I say carefully. He offered me a safe place to stay when I had nowhere else to go. There's nothing more to it than that, isn't there? Hendricks pulls out her own tablet, turning it to show me photos. Dante and me leaving Marcello's yesterday, the car ride to his building, images that make it look intimate, conspiratorial. You went from that restaurant directly to his penthouse, where you've been ever since. That doesn't look like a casual Good Samaritan situation to me. My heart pounds, but I keep my voice steady. What it looks like and what it is are two different things. I was being followed by someone, presumably one of Marcus's people, and Mr. Vitali noticed. He offered help. I accepted. End of story. Is it? She leans back, her eyes never leaving my face. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've traded one dangerous man for another. Dante Vitali runs one of the most powerful crime families in New England. Getting involved with him is possibly the worst decision you could make right now. I'm not involved with him. I insist, even as the wire against my skin reminds me how deeply I'm lying. I'm just staying there temporarily until I figure out my next move. Hendricks is quiet for a long moment, and I can see her recalculating her approach. Finally, she reaches into her jacket and pulls out a business card, sliding it across the table. My personal cell number is on there, she says. When you're ready to talk, and you will be ready, Sophia, because men like Vitali always extract their price, eventually call me, day or night. I can help you, but only if you let me. I take the card, slipping it into my pocket. Thank you. I'll think about it. Don't think too long, she warns, standing. The longer you're in Vitali's orbit, the harder it becomes to extract yourself. Trust me on that. She leaves, and I sit alone at the table, my hands shaking slightly around my untouched coffee. Through the window, I can see Marco's subtle nod from across the street. They heard everything, monitored every word. Agent Hendricks is right about one thing. I'm caught between dangerous men who all want something from me. The question is which danger I can survive, and which one I'm willing to embrace. The wire comes off the moment I'm back in Dante's car, Marco's efficient fingers removing the device from beneath my sweater with clinical precision. I feel exposed without it, even though it was recording evidence against me as much as protecting me. You did well, Marco says, surprising me with the compliment. Agent Hendricks is known for breaking witnesses. You held your ground. I lied to a federal agent, I say flatly, staring out the window as Boston blurs. Past. That's a felony, isn't it? Only if they can prove you lied about something material to their investigation, Marco replies. You told her you didn't know about Marcus's money laundering. That's not a lie you suspected, but you didn't know. There's a legal distinction. When we arrive back at the penthouse, Dante is waiting, his jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up, looking like he's been pacing. The moment I enter, his eyes lock on me, scanning for injuries or distress with an intensity that makes my breath catch. Tell me, he commands. I sink into the leather sofa while Marco plays back the recording. Dante listens in silence, his expression growing darker with each passing minute. When Hendricks makes her threat about me being involved with him, his jaw clenches visibly. She knows you're here, Luca says from his position by the windows. She's got surveillance on you, Dante. I know, Dante says tightly. Marco, I want our security teams to do a full sweep. Before they can continue, my new phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number, but the message makes my blood run cold. I know where you are. Come home voluntarily by midnight tomorrow, or I start killing everyone you've ever cared about. Your choice. Dante reads it over my shoulder, his body going rigid. Marco, he calls out, his voice sharp enough to cut glass. Within seconds, Marco takes the phone and begins tracing the message. Luca appears right behind him, his expression dark. He's escalating, Luca says. This is a 48-hour ultimatum, which means something has changed, Dante says, pacing with predatory grace. Marco, what do we know about Marcus's current situation? Marco's fingers fly across his tablet. Financial records show he's been moving money large amounts out of his U.S. accounts. Started 3 days ago. He's preparing to run. Why now? I ask, my voice small. Agent Hendricks, Dante says grimly. Her investigation must be close to charges. Marcus needs to eliminate loose ends before he disappears. The casual way they discuss my death makes me dizzy. So what do I do? Nothing, Dante says firmly. You stay here, where you're safe, and let us handle Marcus. Handle him how? I demand, standing. Are you going to kill him? Because that makes me complicit in murder. You're not complicit for wanting to survive, Dante counters, his hands gripping my shoulders. Marcus is threatening to murder innocent people. Stopping him isn't murder, it's self-defense. The law won't see it that way. The law, Dante says with contempt, failed to protect you when Marcus killed your mother. Don't tell me about what the law allows when it's already failed you. He's right. As much as I want to believe in justice, the reality is that Marcus has operated with impunity for years. I need air, I say suddenly, pulling away. I need to think. The terrace, he suggests. But you don't go outside without security. The terrace wraps around the building with stunning views. Boston spreads beneath us like a jeweled blanket, beautiful and indifferent. I lean against the glass railing, letting the cold March wind ground me. Behind me, I hear Dante approach. You don't have to decide everything tonight, he says quietly. The ultimatum gives us until tomorrow midnight. That's over 30 hours. What are my actual options? I ask. Option 1. We eliminate Marcus permanently, Dante says bluntly. My people handle it. You're never connected, and you're free. Option 1 makes me indebted to you forever, I point out, and it makes me complicit even if I'm not directly involved. Option 2, Dante continues. We arrange for you to meet with Agent Hendricks. You agree to testify, enter witness protection. Option 2 makes me disappear forever, I say quietly. New name, new identity, no connection to anyone from my past, including you. Including me, he confirms, and something in his voice makes me turn. His face is illuminated by the city below, all sharp angles and shadows, but his eyes are unguarded. There's something raw there, something that looks like longing. There's a third option, he says, stepping closer. You let me bring Marcus here, under controlled circumstances, with my people present. You confront him directly about your mother's murder. You get answers, and then you decide what justice looks like. The audacity steals my breath. You're suggesting I personally confront the man who murdered my mother? I'm suggesting you take back the power he's stolen from you, Dante corrects. For 6 months, you've been running, hiding, letting fear control every decision. What if instead, you faced him from a position of strength? And then what? Do you kill him while I watch? That depends on what he says. Dante replies. Maybe he confesses. Maybe there's evidence we can turn over to Hendricks that puts him away legally. Maybe you get closure without blood on your hands. And if there's no confession? Dante's expression hardens. Then you decide what happens next. Not me. Not anyone else. You. It's your mother who was murdered. Your life that's been destroyed. You should determine how this ends. The offer is seductive. Take control. Demand answers. Choose my own ending. Why would Marcus agree to meet? He will if he thinks you're considering his ultimatum, Dante says. We send him a message. You're willing to talk, but you want guarantees. He'll see it as you negotiating, buying time. He won't realize it's a trap until he's already inside it. I stare out at the city, my mind racing through scenarios. Every option is dangerous. Every choice carries weight. I need to know something first, I say finally. Why are you really doing this? He's quiet for a long moment, then speaks with raw honesty. Because when I saw you in that restaurant, writing your number on that napkin with hands that shook from loneliness and fear, I saw someone who reminded me of who I used to be. Before this life consumed me. You still have innocence, Sophia. Not naivety, but genuine goodness. The kind that makes you worry about collateral damage. The kind most people in my world lost decades ago. He turns me to face him, his hand cupping my cheek. I'm protecting you because somewhere in building an empire, I forgot what it felt like to protect something worth protecting. Elena taught me trust is dangerous. My father taught me power is everything. This life taught me everyone has an angle. And then you met me, I whisper. And then I met you, he confirms, writing a desperate plea for connection, not wanting money or power, just wanting someone to see you. It was the most honest thing I'd witnessed in years. I matter to you, I say, understanding. You matter to me, Dante confirms, which is why I'm giving you this choice. Not because it's strategically sound, it's quite risky, but because you deserve to. Determine your own fate instead of having it decided by men who see you as a pawn. I search his eyes, looking for deception, but all I see is raw honesty and the beginning of genuine emotion. Option 3, I say finally, my voice stronger. We bring Marcus here. I confront him, and then I decide. Something like triumph and concern wore in Dante's expression. Are you certain? Once we initiate this, there's no taking it back. I'm certain, I say. And I am. I've spent 6 months being afraid. I'm done running. Dante's hand slides to the back of my neck, his fingers tangling in my hair as he pulls me closer. For a heartbeat, I think he's going to kiss me. Instead, he presses his forehead against mine, his breath warm against my lips. Then we do this your way, he murmurs. But understand, Once Marcus is here, once he sees you under my protection, there's no scenario where he walks away and leaves you alone. This ends one of two ways: he goes to prison, or he dies. There's no third option. I understand, I whisper. Do you? His grip tightens slightly. Because once this starts, you're mine to protect. Not the FBI's. Not witness protections. Mine. Can you accept that? The possessiveness should alarm me. Instead, it sends heat through my veins, makes me feel safe and desired. Yes, I breathe, and I mean it. Dante's control finally cracks. His mouth crashes against mine with an intensity that steals my breath, claiming me with a kiss that's raw and demanding a declaration of ownership and promise of protection, wrapped into one devastating gesture. I kiss him back with equal fervor, my hands fisting in his shirt. 6 months of loneliness transmuting into desperate need. He tastes like expensive whiskey and danger, and I can't get enough. When we break apart, both breathing hard, his dark eyes search mine. Mine, he says, not a question but a statement. Yours, I whisper, and the word feels like sealing a pact with the devil himself. The next afternoon, I'm positioned behind bulletproof glass in an observation room, watching Marcus Peterson enter for the first time in 6 months. He looks older, more gray in his temples, deeper lines around his eyes, the polish of his suit not masking the desperation beneath. Where is she? Marcus demands, looking around. The message said she'd be here. Miss Chen is observing remotely, Marco says smoothly, for her safety. This is ridiculous, Marcus snaps. I came in good faith. You came because you're desperate, Dante's voice cuts through, ice cold. He's not visible, but his presence fills the room. You're days from federal indictment. You need to eliminate Sophia before you run. Marcus goes pale. Who the hell are you? Dante Vitali, Dante says simply, and I watch Marcus's face drain of color. Sophia is under my protection now. Any threat against her is a threat against my family. Marcus's companion, his head of security, whispers urgently to him. You have no right, Marcus begins. I have every right. Sophia came to me for help. Now we're here to discuss terms not yours, but hers. What terms? Marcus demands. Sophia, if you're listening, this is insane. I'm your family. Whatever you think I've done, you killed my mother. My voice comes through the speaker, stronger than I feel. You pushed her down the stairs. That's absurd, Marcus sputters. Your mother's death was an accident. The police was closed after one phone call from you, I interrupt. I want to hear you say it, Marcus. I want you to admit what you did. I didn't do anything, he insists, but his body language screams lies. Then explain the bruising on her arms, I press. Explain why she told her sister she'd discovered something about your business that scared her. Explain why you emptied her accounts the day after her funeral. I was protecting family assets, Marcus says, his control cracking. Your mother was unstable, irrational. She was going to ruin everything we built. Everything you built on money laundering, Dante interjects. Everything built on suffering. Margaret was going to expose you, so you killed her. I want a lawyer, Marcus says, standing. This is an ambush. Sit down, Marco says quietly, with enough menace that Marcus sits. You're not leaving until we're finished. You can't hold me here. Watch me, Marco says flatly. Now Sophia has questions. Answer them truthfully, or we turn over everything we have on your operations to Agent Hendricks. Marcus glares at the glass, and I see pure hatred. You ungrateful little bitch. After everything I did for you, you killed my mother. The words burst out, tears streaming. You murdered her and then tried to control me. When I ran, you hunted me. You destroyed my apartment. You threatened to kill everyone I care about. How am I ungrateful? Because I made you, Marcus snarls, all pretense gone. You were nothing before me. Your mother was nothing, a washed-up dancer with delusions. I gave you both a life, and this is how you repay me? The mask is off. This is the real Marcus Peterson, entitled cruel, devoid of empathy. Did you kill her? I ask, my voice breaking. I need to hear you say it. Marcus stares at the glass for a long moment. Something shifts in his expression. She was going to destroy everything, he says finally, his voice flat. 15 years of planning, millions in assets, connections that took decades to build. She found evidence of my offshore accounts and threatened to go to authorities. What was I supposed to do? The confession steals my breath. Hearing him admit it breaks something inside me. You were supposed to be my father, I whisper. I'm not your father, Marcus sneers. I never wanted to be. You were part of the package with Margaret tolerated, not loved. The moment you became a liability, you stopped mattering. Dante's hand tightens around mine, keeping me grounded as Marcus's words slice through me. So you admit it, Dante says, deadly calm. You admit to murdering Margaret Chen, to threatening Sophia, to money laundering. You've just confessed to multiple felonies. Marcus goes still, realizing too late. This isn't admissible. You're not police. We're not police, Dante agrees. But Agent Sarah Hendricks of the FBI is listening to every word. You've just made her case. The color drains from Marcus's face. You set me up. I gave you an opportunity to tell the truth. I correct. You chose to confess. You'll pay for this, Marcus threatens, lunging toward the glass. Marco's team subdues him quickly. I don't think so, Dante says coldly. Federal agents are executing search warrants on your properties as we speak. Your accounts are frozen. Your associates are being rounded up. You're done, Marcus. The only question is whether you die in prison or on my terms. You can't kill me, Marcus says desperately. I'm in FBI custody. You. Touch me. Who said anything about killing you? Dante's smile is audible. Prison is a form of death, Marcus. And I have friends inside every prison in this country. Your life expectancy is measured in months. Marcus understands the full scope of his situation. He'll go to prison, where Dante's influence will ensure his life is hell until someone ends it. Sophia, please, Marcus begs. You're my daughter. I'm not your daughter, I say firmly. And I'm not doing this to you. You did this to yourself the moment you killed my mother. Agent Hendricks enters with federal law enforcement. They take Marcus into custody, reading rights while he screams threats and pleas. Through it all, Dante's hand never leaves mine. When the room clears, when Marcus's voice fades, I collapse into Dante's arms, shaking. It's over, Dante murmurs against my hair. He can't hurt you anymore. He admitted it, I sob. He killed her and didn't even care. I know, Dolcezza, Dante soothes. I know. And now justice will be served. I pull back to look at his face. The FBI has him. You don't have to. He'll spend the rest of his life paying, Dante says, his expression leaving no room for argument. In prison and beyond. I promised you justice. I keep my promises. I should be horrified. Should insist legal consequences are enough. But when I think of my mother's body, of 6 months running in fear, of Marcus's sneer as he admitted he never loved me, I don't care about the moral high ground anymore. Thank you, I whisper, and I mean it. Dante cups my face, brushing away tears. You're safe now. Truly safe. Marcus can never touch you again. What happens now? I ask. Now, Dante says, a small smile touching his lips. You get to decide what kind of life you want. No more running, no more hiding. You're free, Sophia. Free. The word should feel liberating. Instead, it feels terrifying. I don't know how. I admit, I don't know how to be free. Then I'll teach. You, Dante promises, pulling me close. One day at a time. He holds me against his chest while the city glitters beneath us, and for the first time in 6 months, maybe in 3 years, I feel safe, protected. Seen. I left a napkin with my number for a waiter because I was desperately lonely, and he'd smiled at me like I mattered. Instead, my plea was answered by a man who is anything but safe, who deals in violence and power and control, a man who saw my desperation and decided to claim it, to claim me, and as sleep finally claims me in his arms, what I feel most is gratitude. Because Dante Vitale, the man at table 9, took my napkin instead, and in taking it, he saved me. 3 months later, I stand in front of the bathroom mirror of my new apartment, staring at my reflection like it belongs to someone else. The woman looking back has color in her cheeks, clarity in her dark eyes, and something that looks remarkably like happiness in her expression. It's been 12 weeks since Marcus's confession, 10 weeks since his arraignment on murder and racketeering charges, and 8 weeks since I stopped having nightmares every single night. Progress, my therapist calls it. I call it survival taking a different shape. The apartment Dante arranged for me is in one of his buildings, not the penthouse, because I needed space to figure out who Sophia Chen is when she's not running or hiding or desperately leaving phone numbers for waiters. It's a beautiful space with hardwood floors and big windows that let in autumn light, and most importantly, it's mine. Well, Mine with discreet security cameras and a panic button that connects directly to Dante's team, but mine nonetheless. My phone buzzes with a text from the man himself. "Dinner tonight? I have news." I smile, typing back. "Your place or mine?" "Mine." 7. Dress nice. We're celebrating. Celebrating what? He doesn't say. But that's typical Dante revealing information on his own timeline, in his own way. He should annoy me. Instead, I find it endearing, which probably says something about how thoroughly I've adapted to his world. The news about Marcus has been steady and satisfying. The federal case is ironclad. His confession, caught on recording, sealed his fate before his lawyers could even mount a defense. He's currently in a federal holding facility awaiting trial, and according to Dante's sources, he's already made enemies inside. Some problems solve themselves. My mother's case was officially reopened, and though I can't bring her back, at least her death is no longer classified as an accident. At least the truth is on record now. At least she's not forgotten. I choose a dress for tonight, deep burgundy, elegant without trying too hard, and spend more time on my makeup than I have in months. Not because I'm trying to impress Dante, but because I want to. Because caring about my appearance feels like reclaiming something Marcus took from me when he made me believe the only way to survive was to be invisible. At precisely 7, I arrive at the penthouse. The elevator recognizes my fingerprint now, one of the security upgrades Dante insisted on after everything with Marcus. The doors open directly into the living space, and I find Dante waiting by the windows, backlit by the Boston skyline. He turns as I enter, and the expression on his face makes my breath catch. It's not the controlled appreciation I've grown used to, but something rawer, more vulnerable. "Sophia," he says, my name almost reverent. "You look beautiful." "You clean up pretty well yourself," I tease, taking in his dark suit, the way the fabric emphasizes his broad shoulders. The crisp white shirt open at the collar in that way that always makes my heart skip. He crosses to me, taking my hand and pressing a kiss to my knuckles' old-world charm that should feel outdated but instead feels perfect. "Come, I have something to show you." He leads me not to the dining room where we usually eat, but to his study, a room I've only glimpsed in passing. It's masculine and elegant, all dark wood and leather, with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a massive desk that probably cost more than my entire education. On that desk sits a folder, official-looking and intimidating. "What is this?" I ask, my stomach tightening with sudden anxiety. "Open it," Dante says, his hand at the small of my back, steadying. I flip open the folder with trembling fingers, and the first document makes my breath stop completely. It's a death certificate. Marcus Peterson, deceased. Cause of death, cardiac arrest. Date, yesterday. He's dead, I whisper, the words not quite real. He had a heart attack in his cell, Dante explains, his voice carefully neutral. The medical examiner ruled it natural causes. He was under tremendous stress, facing life in prison. These things happen. I look up at him, searching his face. "Did you?" "The official cause of death is natural," Dante says, which isn't in Bythe. Answer at all, and somehow is exactly the answer I needed. There will be no investigation, no questions. Marcus Peterson is gone, and he can never hurt you again. The relief that crashes over me is so powerful it makes my knees weak. Dante catches me, guiding me to sit in the leather chair behind his desk. "I know I should feel something," I say, staring at the death certificate. "Guilt or remorse or something human, but all I feel is relief. Does that make me a terrible person?" "It makes you honest," Dante says, kneeling before me so we're eye level. His hands frame my face, thumbs brushing my cheekbones. "Marcus Peterson murdered your mother, hunted you for months, and threatened everyone you cared about. You're allowed to be relieved he's gone. You're allowed to feel safe now." Safe, I repeat, testing the word. It still feels foreign, like speaking a language I'm just beginning to learn. "There's more," Dante says, returning to the folder. He pulls out another document. This, one even more shocking. Margaret Chen's will, the original, from before she married Marcus. I take it with shaking hands. I thought everything went to Marcus. "It did, because he had her change her will 6 months before her death," Dante explains. "But I had my lawyers track down her original attorney, the one who handled her affairs before Marcus. This is what she wanted before he corrupted everything." I read through the document, tears blurring my vision. My mother left me everything: her family's antique business in San Francisco, a trust fund she'd inherited from her parents, even the jewelry Marcus had claimed as his own. According to the dates, she'd planned to leave Marcus before she died, to divorce him and protect her assets. She was going to leave him, I whisper. She knew what he was. She knew, Dante confirms gently. And she was trying to protect you. Her attorney has already filed motions to contest the modified will. With Marcus dead and evidence of coercion, the original will should be reinstated. Everything your mother wanted you to have will be yours. The magnitude of it crashes over me. Not just the money or the assets, but the knowledge that my mother had been trying to save me, even from beyond the grave. Why are you doing this? I ask, looking up at Dante through tears. The protection, I understand. But this tracking down lawyers, contesting wills, giving me closure, why go this far? Dante is quiet for a long moment, and when he speaks, his voice carries a vulnerability I've rarely heard. Because 3 months ago, you asked me why I really helped you, and I told you it was because you reminded me of who I used to be. That was true, but it wasn't the whole truth. He pulls me to my feet, his hands settling on my waist, anchoring me. The whole truth is that the moment I saw you in that restaurant, something in me recognized something in you, he continues. A fundamental goodness that my world tries to destroy. A capacity for hope despite every reason to despair. A strength that looks like vulnerability until you realize it's what's kept you alive when anyone else would have given up. His forehead rests against mine, and I can feel his breath, smell cedar and bergamot, feel the steady beat of his heart. I'm doing this because I love you, Sophia, Dante says, the words simple and devastating. I've loved you since you wrote, "You seem kind" on that napkin. I've loved you through every terrified moment, every brave decision, every time you chose to trust me when you had every reason not to. I'm doing this because you're not just under my protection, you're in my heart, and I'll spend the rest of my life proving you're safe there. The tears spill over, and I don't try to stop them. I love you too, I whisper. The words I've been holding back for weeks, maybe months. Even though you're bossy and overprotective, and you make unilateral decisions about my safety. He laughs, the sound warm and genuine. I promise to work on that. Don't work too hard, I say, smiling through tears. The overprotective thing is kind of hot. Good, he murmurs. And then his mouth is on mine, kissing me with a gentleness that belies the intensity of emotion between us. This isn't the desperate claiming of our first kiss, or the passionate desire of stolen moments. This is something deeper, a promise, a commitment, a future being written in the space between heartbeats. When we finally break apart, Dante reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out a small velvet box. My heart stops. I'm not proposing, he says quickly, seeing my expression. Not yet. You need time to build your life. Figure out who Sophia Chen is when she's not running or surviving. But I want you to have this. He opens the box to reveal a delicate necklace, a small golden key on a fine chain, simple and beautiful. A key? I ask, touching it reverently. To every property I own, Dante explains, fastening it around my neck. To every safe house, every business, every space that's mine. Because if you're ever in danger, ever need sanctuary, you have it. No questions, no conditions. You always have a place with me, Sophia. Always. The weight of the necklace is minimal, but the weight of what it represents is staggering. Complete trust, absolute access. A man who operates in shadows giving me keys to every lock. This is... I trail off, unable to articulate the enormity of the gift. This is me promising that you're not just safe with me, you're home with me, Dante says. Whenever you're ready, however you're ready, there's no pressure, no timeline, just possibility. I touch the key, feeling its warmth against my skin. What if I'm not ready for a long time? Then I wait, he says simply. What if I'm never ready? Then I wait anyway, he says, and the absolute certainty in his voice makes me believe him. Because you're worth waiting for, Sophia Chen. You're worth everything. We have dinner on the terrace despite the October chill, wrapped in blankets and each other, talking about everything and nothing. He tells me about legitimate expansion plans for his businesses, restaurants, real estate developments, the foundation that provides scholarships to students like I was. I tell him about possibly reopening my mother's antique shop, about maybe teaching art history, about dreams I forgot I had when survival became my only goal. What about your graduate program? Dante asks, refilling my wine. I'm taking a semester off. I admit, after everything with Marcus, I need time to figure out what I actually want to study versus what I thought I should study to disappear. Smart, Dante says approvingly. And in the meantime? In the meantime, I say, leaning against his shoulder. I'm learning how to live instead of just survive. I'm seeing a therapist. I'm reconnecting with the few friends I had before everything fell apart. I'm trying to be a real person. Again, you've always been a real person, Dante corrects. You're just remembering how to be a person who isn't afraid. As the night deepens and the city lights sparkle beneath us, I think about the napkin I left 4 months ago. A desperate plea scrawled in shaky handwriting, meant for a kind waiter who smiled at me like I mattered. But Dante Vitali took it instead. And in taking it, he didn't just save my life, he gave me a reason to want to live it. Not as a victim or a survivor or a woman defined by tragedy, but as Sophia Chen, art history student, daughter of Margaret Chen, keeper of keys to a dangerous man's heart, a woman who left a napkin asking to be seen and was seen by exactly the right person, even if he was the most dangerous person in the room, especially because he was. What are you thinking? Dante asks, his arm tightening around me. That I'm grateful, I say honestly. That the waiter never got my napkin. That you took it instead. That you saw me when I needed to be seen most. I'll always see you, Dante promises. For the rest of our lives, however long that is, I'll see you, Sophia. That's my vow. And I'll always choose you, I promise back. Even when it's complicated or dangerous or makes no logical sense, I choose you, Dante. That's mine. He kisses me again, soft and lingering, and it feels like coming home, like the end of running and the beginning of living, like a napkin with a phone number transforming into a love story nobody could have predicted. I left my number for a waiter. The Mafia boss at table 9 took it instead, and that made all the difference. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.